In 2006, David's Senate campaign is thriving due to his empathy and charisma, with widespread media attention boosting his popularity. However, a scandal erupts when a newspaper publishes a story about a college prank where he exposed himself at a reunion. The controversy damages his reputation, and his frustrated reaction is closely observed by Harry, who receives a mysterious phone call about a new plan. As election day arrives, predictions of his loss prove accurate. Meanwhile, Harry and his superior, Richardson, watch over David, determined to steer him back on the right path. After his defeat, David retreats to a bathroom, rehearsing his speech when he hears noises from a stall. A barefoot woman named Elise emerges, explaining she's hiding after crashing a wedding on a dare. Their conversation sparks an instant connection. Elise finds his prank hilarious, while David admits relief over losing, though she senses his true passion for politics. Their chemistry is undeniable, leading to a passionate kiss. But before they can exchange contact information, Elise rushes off to avoid security. Shortly after, David steps onto the stage for his speech but abandons his scripted remarks, instead speaking from the heart. His honesty resonates with the public, helping to restore his reputation.
Amount of stuffing.
Harry is assigned to spill David's coffee to ensure he misses his bus, preventing an encounter with Elise. However, Harry dozes off, and by the time he wakes, David is already on the bus, where he unexpectedly reunites with Elise. Overjoyed, they catch up, and Elise encourages David to reconsider running for Senate. As they talk, Harry, from a distance, makes a subtle gesture, causing David to spill coffee on Elise. Just as Harry prepares to intervene further, he is unexpectedly hit by a cab but recovers instantly. Checking his notebook, he is shocked to see David has strayed from the predetermined plan. Meanwhile, David finally asks Elise for her number, but before he can save it, his phone rings non-stop. Frustrated, Elise playfully drops it into his coffee before rushing off at her stop, leaving David determined to call her later. At his office, David moves through the hallways, greeting employees, unaware they are eerily frozen in place. Entering the conference room, he finds Charlie standing among masked men, scanning him with an unknown device. Their leader, Richardson, orders David's capture, triggering a frantic chase through the office.
You can't get away, David.
No matter where he runs, more men appear to block his escape, including Richardson himself. Desperate, David dashes into his office, slams the door shut, and frantically dials 911 for help. David's call to 911 goes unanswered, and before he can react, the strange men unlock the door and rush in. They pin him down as Harry presses a chloroform-soaked cloth to his face, knocking him unconscious.
Take it easy. Oh, it's okay.
When David wakes up, he finds himself in a deserted warehouse, overhearing Richardson being reprimanded on a call for failing his mission. After ending the call, Richardson announces that David must be reset, but another agent objects, noting that the chairman would never approve. Confused, David demands an explanation. Richardson calmly reveals that their job is to ensure that everything in the world follows a predetermined plan. Sensing danger, David attempts to escape, but Richardson easily stops him by manipulating the floor beneath him, sending him tumbling. Before he can react, the agents force him back into a chair. Richardson then proves his abilities by reading David's mind, correctly identifying a number and color he was thinking of. He finally introduces the organization as the Adjustment Bureau TAB, an elite group responsible for ensuring events align with a master plan. Richardson explains that every person has a predetermined path, and TAB makes small interventions, like spilling coffee or cutting internet access, to keep things on track. Since humans are not meant to be aware of TAB's existence, David is given a choice: keep their secret or have his mind reset, erasing everything that makes him who he is. Richardson also warns him to stay away from Elise, as she is not meant to be part of his life. To ensure compliance, they retrieve Elise's number from David's pocket and burn it in front of him. Without further warning, the agents throw him back into Charlie's office, where everything appears normal. People are moving as usual, and there's no trace of TAB. For the rest of the day, David is unable to shake off the bizarre encounter, his mind fixated on what happened. Even during a meeting, Charlie notices his distraction. After work, David heads to a bar, desperately trying to recall Elise's phone number from memory. As he struggles, Harry suddenly appears and takes a seat next to him, questioning his obsession with Elise despite being warned to stay away. Since discussing Tab in public is risky, they agree to meet later in a more private setting on a boat. There, Harry explains that being near water prevents him from tracking David's actions. He also clarifies that Tab agents don't read minds but rather study people's history and behavioral patterns to predict their choices. Harry warns David to stop searching for Elise if he wants to avoid trouble.
Even if they weren't trying to stop you.
However, 3 years later, fate intervenes when David spots Elise walking along the street. Without hesitation, he jumps off the bus and chases after her. Breathless yet elated, he admits to taking the same bus daily for 3 years, hoping to see her again. They reconnect as they walk together, with David explaining that he lost her number and couldn't find her online. Meanwhile, a Tab agent detects this deviation and alerts Richardson, who quickly mobilizes his men to intervene. As David and Elise catch up, she reveals that she's a contemporary ballet dancer and invites him to her performance the next evening. They stop at a cafe for breakfast, unaware that Richardson is observing them. He notes several critical inflection points in Elise's path and realizes that if they kiss, it will cause an irreversible disruption to the plan. To prevent this, Tab sends Charlie to interrupt their date, reminding David about an important speech. Just as David and Elise are about to kiss goodbye, Richardson manipulates the situation by sending Charlie a fake message, making him unknowingly break the moment by rushing David away. Before leaving, David kisses Elise on the cheek and promises to see her again. Later, David announces his decision to run for Senate, while Elise unknowingly falls into a Tab trap, receiving a fake text that redirects her to a different rehearsal location. After his speech, David notices Richardson watching him, sensing something is wrong. Acting on instinct, he cancels his scheduled interviews and rushes to Elise's studio, only to find it locked. His attempts to call the company are mysteriously cut off, even when using a stranger's phone. As he searches the city, Richardson and his assistant try to convince him to let Elise go, but David refuses to give up. Determined, he enters a cafe and asks around, eventually getting a lead on Elise's location. David struggles to find a taxi, as Richardson uses his influence to prevent any from stopping for him. Determined, he chases a moving cab and finally gets inside, only for another car to crash into it moments later. Checking on the driver, David peers into the other vehicle but finds it eerily empty. Suspicious, he calls 911, but when the police arrive, an officer insists he come to the station as a witness. Realizing something is off, David questions if his presence is truly necessary. The sergeant reassures him that they will contact him later instead, allowing him to resume his search for Elise. As he turns away, he notices the officer has vanished, confirming his suspicion that he was actually a Tab agent. Finally, David hails a cab, pays the driver to ignore all traffic rules, and speeds toward Elise. Meanwhile, Tab agents use their abilities to intercept him, but he reaches the studio first. Richardson warns that even greater forces will intervene before leaving to report to his superior. During their meeting, it is revealed that David and Elise were originally meant to be together, but the plan was rewritten in 2005. Despite this, remnants of their original destiny keep pulling them back toward each other. Later, Richardson informs Harry that none of this is his fault. That night, David and Elise share an unforgettable evening, running through the city, dancing at a nightclub, and opening up about their pasts. Their connection deepens, leading to a passionate kiss before they head home together. As they sleep, Agent Thompson secretly watches over them. The next morning, Elise receives multiple calls from her ex-fiancé, a man she had left behind but never completely forgotten. She confesses to David that she broke off her engagement because she could never stop thinking about him. David, feeling truly himself for the first time, fears that the agents will try to separate them again. He invites Elise to the TV station so she can stay close while he does his interview. However, after the show, an agent disguised as a crew member tricks Elise into leaving, falsely claiming that David will call her later. Meanwhile, another agent leads David into a trap, shoving him into a locked warehouse under the pretense of escorting him to his next interview. Moments later, Agent Thompson arrives, and David demands to know what happened to humanity's free will. Thompson explains that the Adjustment Bureau has secretly guided humanity for centuries, steering civilization from primitive times to the peak of the Roman Empire. However, when they withdrew their influence, humanity fell into the Dark Ages. Realizing the consequences, they intervened again, sparking the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the scientific revolution. In 1910, they stepped back once more, hoping humanity had learned to govern itself. But within decades, the world faced two devastating world wars, the Great Depression and the rise of totalitarianism. Seeing this chaos unfold, Tabb concluded that humanity could never be trusted with true free will. Thompson then reveals that Elise was never meant to be a permanent part of David's life. She was only supposed to inspire him toward his destined path as president. He warns that if David stays with her, he will never achieve the greatness he was meant for. However, David refuses to accept a predetermined fate, insisting on making his own choices. Seeing his determination, Thompson lets him go, and David rushes to Elise's performance. At the theater, Thompson appears again, revealing that Elise has the potential to become a world-renowned dancer. However, if she stays with David, her future will be reduced to teaching dance to children. As Thompson subtly influences events, Elise suddenly stumbles and falls mid-performance. Panicked, David carries her to the hospital, where doctors run tests on her injured leg. While he waits, Thompson reappears, blaming him for Elise's accident. Enraged, David punches him, but Thompson remains unfazed, reminding him of his history of self-sabotage, just like the college prank that derailed his election. He argues that Elise fuels his reckless impulses, leading him to make choices that cost him dearly. While tonight's injury is just a minor sprain, Thompson warns that if David continues down this path, Elise might one day lose what she cherishes most, her ability to dance. David is relieved to learn that Elise's injury is only a sprain and that she will recover in a month. However, instead of staying by her side, he quietly leaves the hospital and never contacts her again. "11 months later, he is leading in the political polls, seemingly focused on his career. One morning, Charlie brings him a newspaper announcing Elise's engagement to her ex, with the wedding just a week away. Though visibly shaken, David tries to suppress his feelings and move forward. Days later, Harry unexpectedly approaches him and reveals that Thompson had lied. Elise didn't make David reckless. She made him whole, freeing him from his obsessive need for approval. Harry also drops a shocking truth. The deaths of David's brother and father were orchestrated sacrifices by the Adjustment Bureau to shape him into the leader they needed. Realizing he still loves Elise, David decides to fight for her. But with the wedding only hours away, he must act quickly while avoiding Thompson. Harry agrees to help and teaches David how to teleport through doors like the agents. He explains the technique, warning him to always turn the doorknob clockwise and avoid anyone wearing a hat, as they might be agents.
The place, that'll take me too long.
But every time you go through a door,
Is actually if I go right for the blue door.
with Thompson.
Even you guys can't get through the doors without your
After a night of training, David memorizes the path he must take, and Harry gives him a hat, wishing him luck. As soon as David starts navigating the city using the doors, the Adjustment Bureau loses track of him and scrambles to intercept him. He rushes through the rainy streets, dodging traffic and crowds, arriving at the courthouse just as the wedding is about to begin. The groom waits nervously, unaware that Elise hasn't arrived yet. Forced to abandon his jacket and phone at a metal detector, David retrieves his hat just in time and sprints through the courthouse corridors, searching for Elise. He finally finds her in the bathroom, but instead of being relieved, she is furious. Still heartbroken over his sudden disappearance and unwilling to forgive him so easily. As David and Elise argue, an agent bursts in.
Oh my God.
But David knocks him out and seizes his notebook, revealing the truth to Elise. He confesses his love, but removing his hat alerts the Adjustment Bureau, forcing them to flee. Donning the hat again, David leads Elise through a portal, transporting them to a stadium. Convinced by the teleportation, Elise trusts him, and they sprint through a series of doors, pursued by agents. They emerge at the Statue of Liberty, where David gives Elise a choice. She can leave or stay with him. Without hesitation, she chooses him, and they teleport into the Bureau's headquarters. Inside, agents attack, but David fights them off as they navigate endless corridors and staircases. Reaching a rooftop, they find themselves surrounded. Accepting their fate, they share a passionate kiss, and suddenly, all agents vanish except for Thompson. Skeptical, Thompson warns that fate cannot be changed, but Harry arrives with a message from the chairman. Reading it, Thompson walks away, and Harry reveals that their love has rewritten destiny. Their future is now blank, free to be written by them. As they step into their new life, Harry muses whether free will is a gift only for those willing to fight for it.